This is Kyle Blakely with Mark Waller, and we have another episode of today of We Have Issues. This is going to be a little bit of a follow-up to the issue we did earlier in the week, or the episode we did earlier in the week, where we were talking about the special session up at the Colorado State Legislature. And the session ended yesterday, and it looks like, Mark, it looks like you're back home.
Yes, God, finally. I've been in Denver every day this week, and it's been exhausting. I see that you've got your world righted as well. Your flag is no longer pointed backwards. I assumed you were under duress or something. Is life stabilized out now? You know, blink once if everything is good, twice if it's bad.
Everything's good. It had more to do with my lack of technological skills than anything else. Was not under duress, just didn't have a clue how to do it the right way.
Oh, so the wife wasn't, locking you in the basement, not letting you out, something like that?
Nope, no duress. So
thank God. I think, I had thousands of listeners reach out to me and said, "What's wrong with Kyle?" Because it looks like there's some sort of problem there. I mean, it was thousands, at least.
At least thousands?
Yeah, at least thousands.
That's pretty good. I like that. Well, at least people care.
I'm pretty sure I'm not exaggerating by thousands there.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah, this special session, man. Golly. It comes at like the absolute worst time for a few reasons. Number one, all the state fair stuff is going on now, and legislators usually participate kind of heavily in that. Didn't get to do any of that this year. One of my big clients had a conference going on, so trying to split time between the conference and the legislative session, and I'm tired. I'm not as young as I used to be, Kyle. I'm tired.
Nice. Well, I actually get to do 2 days at the state fair this year. I was there last weekend and going again this weekend, and see a couple of concerts. So it kind of looking forward to that.
One of my favorite events of the year is always the legislative barbecue and going down, and it's on the first day of the fair. You get to go down, and it's like the first day of school, right? You haven't seen everybody since the session adjourned in May, and everybody's kind of gone off and done all their summer stuff, and it's like kind of coming back for the first day of school. So it's always a load of fun to see people, but not this year.
Yeah, I've heard it's a great event, that and the stock sale. So
yeah, see, the problem with that though is you got to wear these stupid ass shirts. I mean, they are terrible. Pikes Peak Posse, the El Paso County folks, they at least do it a little bit better. They're still ugly, but they are not near as ugly as the Denver Rustler shirts. It is amazing to see these people in white shirts with red roses and like yellow stems, and they are just god awful, horrendous, my friend. It's what we do for the people of the state of Colorado.
Nice.
Sacrifices we make. I'll wear that shirt on the podcast one of these days.
I think that our listeners that might be the kind of thing that attracts them to the YouTube channel.
Yeah, that's right. Where they need to go like and subscribe.
Yes, exactly.
Way to cleverly put that in there.
Yeah. So the special session was to try and head off two ballot issues 50 and 108, both property tax issues. 50 was on the ballot to cap the annual increase in property tax revenue at 4%. 108 was to set the assessment rates at, I believe, 24% for commercial and 5.7% for residential. And there were some other things wrapped in there around the state needing to backfill local governments that were going to take a huge hit if both of those things passed. And so out of fear that those would pass, the governor called a special session to see if they could come to a compromise. And it looks like they passed two bills yesterday. And so I tried to read about them in the paper this morning, couldn't make sense of it all that well. So I'm hoping you can make sense of it for me and our listeners.
Well, if I can, I'll just make shit up. So that's, typically lawyer, politician, just acting for ugly people. Pretty good at making shit up. So that's really kind of what my plan is today.
Okay, that
Yeah.
works.
Yeah. I mean, just give the air and appearance of education. That's what we're trying to do. Yeah. 50 was a constitutional amendment. 108 was a statutory amendment. And when the 50 capped the growth rate moving forward, 108 basically just reduced the tax rate now today. And it was going to cost estimates around $3 billion total, of which the state was going to have to backfill about 2.2 billion of that. That's one estimate. Some other estimates change that a little bit, but effectively that's what it was. Cost really local government the entities that are impacted by property tax, right? So state is going to have to backfill, and by local governments and local entities that we're talking about, we're kind of talking about three things: counties, school districts, and other special districts like fire districts, stuff like that, right? Sanitation districts, that kind of thing. And so the 108 and 50 there would have been a proponent that would have required a backfill of about $2.2 billion of that $3 billion not to counties, but to the special districts and to the school districts. So legislature's like, wow, that's going to be a huge cut to the state budget. We got to figure this out. By the way, they tried to solve this issue at the end of the legislative session that ended in May with Senate Bill 233 that Senator Pelton talked a little bit about.
Yep.
And so the idea behind this bill was, let's kind of figure out a compromise area between what 233 did and what 108 and 50 would have done. And that's effectively what they did in this legislative session. Their cap property tax growth rate, I think it's like 5.2%, or reduce the property tax rate to 5.2%, caps the growth rate moving forward, so property taxes won't grow too quickly, and then offsets some of that backfill for K through 12 and for special districts. K through 12 is effectively going to be made whole as a result of this. But counties are still going to struggle a little bit. And we shouldn't say even that they're going to struggle. I mean, really, this is it's not about cutting revenues for counties, but just not allowing them to grow at the same pace that inflation's growing.
Okay. So, but the state, there still will be some level of backfill from the state. Did anybody say what they estimated that might be yet, or have we seen any?
Yeah, I think the devil's in the details there. I'm sure that's been said. I don't have those numbers in front of me right now, but it's certainly way less than $2.2 billion. There's going to be a backfill for K through 12. But one of the things that the legislation did was kind of made a difference between how local governments were going to be reimbursed and how K through 12 was going to be reimbursed. So the tax rates are kind of different for the property tax you pay for schools. That's still going to be kind of elevated and higher. So there's less of a backfill that ends up coming from the state there.
Okay.
And at the end of the day, my property taxes, I think I've talked about it on the podcast numerous times. They've gone up way over 40%. And there are people, I feel kind of lucky because I think a lot of people had it way worse than that. At the end of the day, your property taxes are still going to be way more than they were. Yeah. And that's because the value of your home has gone up. It's not because the rate has changed, but just because the values have gone up, your property taxes are still going to have gone up a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
It won't be as bad as it was, but it's still going to be a lot.
Yeah. So one of the other things I saw then in the article this morning, one thing that I saw that I did understand, was the governor has said he will sign these two bills as soon as the two issues are off the ballot. Now, I mean, from what I understand, they have to sign a notarized document. The folks that put those two issues on the ballot have to sign notarized document by September 6th to get those two things pulled off the ballot. Then the governor will sign those bills. What, any trickery involved in there? Do you think it's pretty cut and dried that both of those things will happen?
I think it will happen, but there is nothing. Let's just be clear about this. There is no contractual agreement between these parties, nor could there be.
Yeah.
So one party cannot force the other to do what they've intimated that they would do here. At least I don't see that.
Yeah.
Somebody might try to sue for enforcement of one or the other, but I just don't see that you can do that. I don't see how you can, contract for statutory changes, right?
Yeah.
So there could be. I doubt that there will be. I think that
Yeah.
I think that if the governor engaged in subterfuge there, it would be much more impactful to him, right? Because he's a politician that's supposed to have the trust of the people, and if he's not being honest and forthright in his dealings, then that certainly more negatively impacts him than, say, some sort of private entity that could easily engage in subterfuge and nobody even knows who they are.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but I think it's all going to work out here. I think the other thing that was noticeable to me through all of this, we've had some struggles as a Republican Party in the state of Colorado. I think those aren't a secret. Over the last several years, probably, and certainly significantly over the last couple of years, right? One of the things I saw during this legislative session was the leadership positions taken by Senator Barb Kirkmeyer and by the House Minority Leader Rose Puglisi to get these deals done. I thought they just went above and beyond, and it shows hope for me that our Republican Party has the right kind of leaders that we need moving forward, and it's going to create an opportunity for us to be able to successful. A little bit of, I guess I should say, a little bit of my faith was restored here because I saw the work that they did and how they were able to bring, really bring their caucuses along in the right way in order to get these pieces of legislation passed because it's for the good of the people of the state of Colorado.
That's great.
Yeah, it was exciting to see. Also, I thought one of the things that was interesting, this happens every once in a while, not very often. This was one of those circumstances. I mean, there were some no votes that came out of this, right? No votes in the House and no votes in the Senate. I think what was particularly interesting in this circumstance was those no votes came from the extremes of the parties. So the far right voted no, and the far left came together and voted no. We always say that's where, they are so far left and so far right that they actually intersect on the backside of the moon.
Yeah, it's a circle, not a straight line.
Yeah, that's right. And so that was kind of interesting as well. But super proud of Senator Kirkmeyer and Representative Puglisi, Minority Leader Puglisi, to get this done. They did just an outstanding job and great representation for the people of the state of Colorado.
Well, with that and the possible change in the state party officers from earlier this week, maybe there is some ongoing hope for the party to kind of maybe make a little bit of a rebound here in Colorado and balance it out a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so let's say those two issues go off the ballot. I feel like I've been kind of bouncing around a lot on these state ballot issues. A couple of episodes ago, I was wildly off base when I said we had 10 issues on the ballot when there were only 3. I corrected that in the last episode. And now with 50 and 108, there are 9 issues approved for the ballot, be 7 if those 2 go away. So it did very quickly.
First of all, Kyle, never admit that you make a mistake. Blame it on somebody else. This is our political world today. We don't take responsibility. Come on, man. This isn't your fault. Somebody did something wrong somewhere else.
If I run for office at some point, I'll learn that.
You're going to have to. And no doubt in my mind, that's going to happen someday.
Nice. So, okay, so those 7 ballots, I'm just going to run down the list again. We're not going to really get into them today, but issue 89, the right to abortion, 91 to prohibit trophy hunting of mountain lions, bobcats, and lynx. Eligibility for,
Terrible. How about this? You go through them and I'll just be like, terrible, good, terrible, good. How about that? Can we do
okay.
that?
All right, let's go back up to 89, right to abortion.
Completely unnecessary.
91, prohibit trophy hunting.
Horrible.
112, eligibility for parole.
Not a good one.
138, school choice and education.
I like it.
145, establish veterinary professional associate.
Indifferent. I mean, probably right, but indifferent.
Okay. 157, funding for law enforcement.
We always like funding for law enforcement.
Okay. And then 310, conduct of elections.
Oh, I think complicated, difficult, and that one remains to be seen.
Yeah, I've already said I'm in favor of that one. I like it. And I'm hoping that next week we're going to have the proponents of that on for our next episode to talk about that issue, be able to go into it in depth, because I think there's parts of it that for some people right out of the gate might be confusing because it's so different from what we're doing right now. So hopefully we can bring some clarity to that, but I'm really looking forward to talking to them.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be a seismic change for the way that we handle elections in the state of Colorado, which I think probably needs to have, we need to have a change. I think these things are good, but I'm just not positive. I need to do a little more thought-provoking study on these to understand that better.
Okay. Well, we'll get into that one and then probably some more of these as we get closer to November. We're also going to be trying to have some candidates on here pretty soon. The Republican and Democratic candidates for some offices. And so that should be interesting. I think between now and Election Day, I think we're going to have a lot of good episodes for people to learn about the candidates and issues. And so I think it's going to be a nice run up to November 5th.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll entertain some people along the way, educate them, and get some therapy too.
Good. Well, so from what I understand, there is something pissing you off right now. And what would that be?
Oh my gosh, Kyle, this is perhaps the worst of the absolute worst. Like, I could not be more pissed off about an issue than I am about this. I have a business partner. I do some state and federal lobbying, a lot of consulting work. My business partner just happens to be a Democrat. We've had him on the podcast before, Joe McCloskey. Joe texts me from the DNC. He went to the Democratic National Convention in Chicago, and he was gloating the whole time that he's there, right? Like, first thing, oh my God, I've been partying so much with all these celebrities and stuff. I'm so tired. I can't even go to the John Legend concert tonight. Like, you got to be kidding me. Like, John Legend, come on. The Republican National Convention, we're lucky if we can get like a Lee Greenwood cover band in the hotel lobby or something, right?
Yeah, and Hulk Hogan.
Just ridiculous.
They did have Hulk Hogan for just the general celebrity pool.
Okay, Kyle, I'm just going to say Hulk Hogan, John Legend, and all these other massive celebrities that, I don't even know because I'm an old white guy, right?
Yep.
But Hulk Hogan versus that, I'm not sure that's an equal trade. But here's where it really gets disparate. I mean, this is just ridiculous beyond belief. Now, as you know or might not know, I am a gigantic Cubs fan. Have been my whole life. You go to my Facebook profile, it is a picture of me, 3 years old, wearing a Cubs hat. I mean, this is how deep-seated and rooted my fandom is for the Chicago Cubs. And this is where it just did it for me completely. Again, in Chicago, my business partner, Joe McCloskey, who I'm barely talking to right now because of this, texted me pictures of him on the field at Wrigley Field, where the Chicago Cubs play baseball, taking batting practice. I'm an old college baseball player. Like, I
Wow.
would frickin' sell one of my children to take batting practice on Wrigley Field. I would have become, I don't even like Kamala Harris. Think her policy implications would be disastrous for the United States of America. I would have been Republicans for Kamala to get a chance to take batting practice on Wrigley Field. So here's what I'm pissed off about.
Okay.
Republicans, effing figure it out. Get some good shit for us to do at the Republican National Convention. We don't want Hulk Hogan and Chuck Norris cool people. But couldn't we do a little bit more than Kid Rock and Lee Greenwood? Come on. I'm proud to be an American. That's been around for frickin' 100 years, right? That's older than the national anthem, it seems like at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Republican Party is hurting in a lot of ways, and a celebrity
None bigger than
comparison,
that.
yeah, a celebrity comparison kind of shines a light on it.
Well, and I mean, again, the celebrity stuff, I could sort of almost like, all right, I'm starting to get annoyed by this. But then the Wrigley Field thing just freaking set me over the edge. I mean, how does that happen? Right? I mean, come on. Batting practice on Wrigley Field.
You can imagine how many people, what did the Cubs have to go on like a 2-week road trip? I mean, I can't imagine how many people probably wanted to do that out of the thousands at the convention. So I'm sure the stadium was tied up for a while.
Yeah, I don't know how he scored tickets to that, but he was like there for, I'm like 4 hours too, right? Shagging fly balls in the outfield, taking batting practice. I just like, there are few bucket list items in life that I would want to experience more than getting to take batting practice on Wrigley Field. And my business partner, who doesn't even like baseball, is doing it, and I'm not. And Kyle, that's what I'm pissed off about.
Okay, that's good. I think that's everything for this week. Did you have anything else that you wanted to talk about? We kind of had a little bit of a shorter episode and
Yeah.
had
So
different things.
just one other thing, another thing that was kind of annoying me, actually made me think about you just a little bit. I was driving I've been in Denver all week, right?
Yeah.
Having to drive up to Denver. Sure enough, man, I'm in the left lane. And my God, this guy in front of me is it's almost like he's teasing me. He's going so slow. And I thought to myself, I know this is an issue that triggers Kyle just a little bit, but what if I had like a 2x10 on the front of my car and I could just, as a bumper and maybe just politely nudge these people out of the way?
Now, that's a ballot issue I could get behind and try and get on next year.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know this is something that's important.
Allowing 2x10s would be.
Yeah. Listen, I'm thinking, as we're driving along, I'm like, hey, I mean, as you've pointed out correctly, it's illegal, right? To just drive in the left lane. And so I'm thinking to myself, how can we create some left lane border security and kick the illegals out? I don't know, but I'd really like to figure out how to do that.
Well, it's annoying because I know other states actually enforce it. Kansas, where you have like 1/10 of the number of cars that we have in Colorado, Kansas enforces that law on their interstates. It's not that difficult. So at some point, Colorado needs to start enforcing this. And next week, I've got to drive through Denver twice next week. So I'm already kind of dreading it a little bit. But
so what you're saying is our Democratic governor refuses to enforce the left lane border. That's what I'm hearing. And he's
Yeah.
allowing illegals to drive all over our left lane as a result of whatever, him being in office and appreciating illegals driving in the left lane. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Sorta. You might have added a little bit to it, but in general, that's pretty much the issue. So, next week, one of my trips next week, I'm going to have a passenger, so I'll have to behave. But the other trip, I don't. So who knows?
Maybe you should take a Valium before each of them.
True.
Might be helpful.
Yeah. Well,
or just put our podcast on, listen to it. That'll zen you out, because I know you've gone to YouTube and followed us and liked our podcast, as other people could do if they want to, be entertained as they're driving in the left lane, getting pissed off by people.
Well,
put Kyle and Mark on. What else could make your day better, right?
Yeah, the podcast episode while you're driving. Don't watch the YouTube episode while you're driving. That'll make it even worse for people on the interstate.
Put it up on the dashboard there and watch it while you're driving along. That'd be all right.
Yeah, because I love
We're
the
not
melodious sound of my own voice so much that, that's how I relax, is by listening to our podcast while I'm driving.
While you're driving. I think it'd be awesome.
Yeah.
But that's what, certainly that's what everybody else should do.
Yeah. So,
because they're going to walk away from it going, wow, I'm educated. I've been entertained. My stress level's gone down. I'm feeling better about who I am. I'm not pissed off by this guy that's in the left lane in front of me.
It'll take a lot for that to happen. And if I'm on next week's episode, it means I didn't get thrown in jail while I was traveling next week. But again, hopefully we're going to have the guests from issue 310 about changing the way Colorado conducts its elections. Looking forward to that. And so this is Kyle Blakely and Mark Waller again for We Have Issues, and we will see you next week. Thanks.
All right. Thanks a lot, guys. Bye.